Grand Theft Auto 5 has always had cars as a focus. I mean, it's in the name. What would you expect? They do it very well. The detail in the cars, the sound they make, the way they handle, well, that one maybe less so. But even if the focus of the game has less so been about the cars and more so been about player ingenuity and storyline, they still do it extremely well. Recently, in GTA Online, they added the Los Santos Tuner update, which is a very, very wonderful thing that they've been needing to add for a very long time. Many people would have expected this to be a much earlier update. This is something that the fans of GTA, specifically the fans of GTA Online, have been desiring for probably since it came out. Even before Los Santos Tuners update released, the community members of GTA Online have been organizing car meets and really pushing the boundaries of what was currently available just to perform some of the things that they may not be able to take part in real life. Now, I'd like to detail my personal opinions on most of the update. I won't go super into detail with the racetracks or things like that because honestly, there's not much there to describe. There's city line street races with shortcuts. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. Outside of the fact that there's no rich area street races per se that I'm aware of, there's not much to talk about there. To start with, I'd like to, go to the start. To join in on this update, you need to go to the Los Santos Car Meet. No, that is not a poor description of a place. That is an organization. Now, already there, I have a problem, and I'm sure a lot of people would agree with me, and in a nitpicky sort of way, not necessarily a serious problem kind of way. I don't think a single organization that's informal and illegal such as this would be considered, what would name themselves City Car Meet. I mean, in terms of real life equivalents, the only thing I can think of would be either a professional auto show, which this very much isn't, or Cars and Coffee, which is a massive national, possibly even international at this point, organization entirely based on car meets. They don't call themselves American Car Meets. They don't call themselves Detroit Car Meets. No, it's Cars and Coffee. The name Los Santos Car Meet just rubs me the wrong way and makes it very strange to mention. I mean, yeah, sure, you'll tell your friends, hey, let's go to the car meet. But saying which car meet is normally a very specific thing. Cars and Coffee versus basically any other car meet, hypercar car meet, etc. Los Santos Car Meet in universe, I don't think would live up to its name because there could be 5 other car meets happening. That's a nitpicky thing, it very much is, but I hope you understand what I mean. Now, with this new area in the game, which is put together beautifully, you get to see so many unique cars. They're randomly generated cars plus player cars if there are multiple players in that session in the car meet. And they got one thing very accurate. One thing. Probably the most accurate thing in this update. Supercars and hypercars that don't need to show off but are there because the rich kids want to show off get no attention. Meanwhile, the random joker with a 2018 super tuned out, lot of work into it, Honda Civic has got people looking at it. You know, it's quite amazing how, even though it's randomly generated, it's surprising how few supercars actually have attention on them, just from the AI. Secondly, the test track area. I really appreciate how it's just a wide open space with the support pillars in it. I don't think that it's the best option they could have gone for in terms of, you know, realism, because that is a massive space. But with the painted lines in the ground, the random oil and water spills, the tire marks everywhere, that's a very, very nice detail, in my opinion. From there, there's the mod shop and the street races and everything. I'm not going to go into detail with those. But in terms of the Los Santos Car Meet, there is one last thing I would like to bring up, and that's the reputation system. The reputation system, I think, works pretty well. For doing races, for taking new cars into the test track every day, for breaking personal records, for winning pursuit races, for basically anything you do in the update, you will gain reputation. And it works similarly to the arena system, where the higher reputation you have, the more you unlock. And I think, and that includes trade prices for all of the tuner vehicles, which we will be getting onto in a bit. I think that's a wonderful system. I truly do. There is one problem I have with it, though. And this necessarily isn't a problem with how it works, more so what they should have included in some way or another. There's no way for you to lose reputation. And in a world like a underground racing community, especially in real life, reputation means everything. For them not to include details that lose reputation, things that you could perform on purpose and get hit for, you know? For example, during a street race, if you purposefully go out of your way to hit other people's cars, which is a very big no-no in the realistic scene, then you should be docked reputation. Obviously, you should get like 1 or 2 free hits per race, but if you do it consistently, race after race after race, then you should start losing reputation. And the more you do it, the faster you should lose reputation. I know that's not something they can implement, and I know it's not something they can do easily if they wanted to, but that dude, messing someone's car up is a massive problem. Like, some guy spends 10 years getting their car how it wants to be, and you fuck it up, then you are dead. That's how it works, alright? I mean, if it's some rich kid who brought a Ferrari to a Civic and Honda Civic and WRX race or something, like, that kid kind of deserves it. You're not going to lose much reputation for that. But my point stands. It is just an opinion, so it'll stand anyway, but there's no reason right now for street races to be fair, for them to be honest, for them to be races. As of right now, I've seen more people going for the dirty tricks than the actual races, because the racetracks, because the cones you have to drive through are all so tight, so small, so short. These drivers in these races, they don't have anything to lose. If they spin you out and survive, then they get first place. If they spin you out and don't survive, then they'll try again. There's no harm for them to do it that way. And it's very sad to see, because not only is it a scummy way to race to begin with, but it's completely irreputable. Now, I would like to broach the cars, because the new street races that they've added are completely limited to the tuner class of car, which may not sound like much considering that they added a bunch of cars for this. So it'd be just simply buying one and then going. But the cars are a little bit confusing, to say the least. So to start off with, let's go with the low-end cars. Alright, let's go with the low-end cars. We have things like the Volcar Warrener HKR, the Honus Remus, the Karen Futo GTX, etc., etc. These are wonderful cars, don't get me wrong. I mean, in real life, they're considered, in the same order that I said them prior, a Nissan Sunny, which is a very old car by this point in time, a Nissan Silvia S13, and then a Toyota Sprinter Terreno, also known as the AE86, one of the most famous in media street racing cars ever. Specifically downhill event. Yes, I'm talking about Initial D. Everyone has watched Initial D. Shut up. I'm sorry. The low-end cars are very powerful, especially once they're tuned up, but they're not exactly worthwhile to race. I mean, you can look at the stats, but the stats don't mean much in this game. It's just simply how they control. And they're all very weighty, I think is the correct word to use. Now, if we go for the mid-priced, shall we call it, please keep in mind, when I say low-priced, mid-priced, and high-priced, I don't mean the literal price of them in the game. I just simply mean what would be considered expensive and what would be considered cheap in real-life comparison. At the mid-price level, we have things like the Honus Euros, which is a 370Z, a Nissan 370Z. We have things like the Dinka Jester RR, which is a 5th gen, I believe it is, Toyota Supra. And then we have things like the, what was it? The Obey Tailgater S, which is an Audi RS3, I believe. Again, wonderful cars and beautifully modeled, lots of detail. Very much not good for racing. I mean, the Obey Tailgater, the Audi RS3 model, that one's way too heavy and is way too weak on its turning. Most of the races consider sharp turns. The Obey Tailgater has to slow down extensively for it. Things like the Dinka Jester and the Honus Euros, also known as the Toyota Supra 5th and the Nissan 370Z, they're wonderful cars, but they're underpowered for what they are. I mean, genuinely, the Dinka Jester RR feels a hell of a lot slower than it should. And I'm not quite sure why. You know, there's various reasons I can think of, various technological things, but I don't know how in detailed they got with these cars. Now, there are the high-priced cars, which really only consists of one car, but it's a problematic car if you ask me. The Pisfer Comet S2. It's based on the Porsche 922, which is just a 911 that's a little bit slower. All Porsches are 911s under the body, that's my opinion. But the piss for Comet is not a tuner car, it's a supercar. It's something that I hate to talk about, because in the tuner community, in the car meet communities, whatever you want to call it, everyone is welcome. We welcome everyone. It doesn't matter if you have a shitty Honda Civic with a lawnmower in the back, or if you have a hyper-powered Lamborghini with swappable rear wheel, four-wheel drive. Like, it doesn't matter. You are welcome. But for them to classify what is essentially a supercar, and the only car to be classified as a supercar underneath the tuner name, just it puts a bad taste in my mouth. A normal person in the tuning community probably can't afford a Porsche 922, and if they can, then they're lucky. Most of them are going to afford the cheaper cars, because that's what the tuning community consists of. The idea is to take a cheap car and make it powerful. That's the idea. And I'm pretty sure they plan on adding another Porsche, another piss-for car to the list later. I do believe that they are planning on doing that. Not 100% sure, but we'll have to wait and see. Maybe they announced it already and I haven't been paying attention, but who knows. Now, in terms of the actual performance beyond all of the cars, I want to say that there feels to be a lot of favoritism to the Supra. And when I say Supra, I don't actually mean the literal Supra, the Dinka Jester. Instead, I want to say that the Karen Calico GTF, which is based on a 5th generation Toyota Celica, maybe a 6th generation, but pretty sure it's a 5th generation Toyota Celica. That car, for some reason, has the highest stats and also the best performance out of every vehicle from stock and fully upgraded. And I don't understand it. Don't get me wrong, the Toyota Celica was basically a Supra under the hood and it was a beast on the road. Performed immensely well, was able to take corners like nothing when it was alone. But Toyota Celicas versus things like the Honda S2000, the RX-7, things like the Supra itself, it never really took off. I mean, it's one of the reasons why the Supra is better than the Celica in most instances, because the Celica doesn't have all of the performance that the Supra has. Sure, it's the same engine, sure, it's the same base underneath, but the Supra still has the technological and, mechanical advantages that the Celica never got. The fact that there's favoritism towards it kind of pisses me off. Supra culture is the second worst culture in the car community. The only thing worse than super culture is Rex culture, and they know who they are. And yes, the Honda S2000 is here in the game. It's under the name Dinka RT3000, and it's beautifully modeled. It's slow, like it is in real life, in comparison to the RX-7 and the Supra, but it handles immensely well. And yes, the RX-7 is recently added. I know a lot of people have been talking about it. I personally have an RX-7 in the game. It is a wonderful thing to drive. Tunes out beautifully. Generally, it's just a wonderful car. Why did you put it under the goddamn Nissan badge, huh, GTA? Huh, Rockstar? Why did you put it under the Nissan badge? Why did you give it the name ZR350 as if it was a Nissan 350Z? What did you do? Are you too afraid to give the most culturally influenced car its own fucking make and model? Like, come on. You make up car brands for a living. You can't give the Mazda brand its own space to have the RX-7? God damn. Pisses me off. Honda's got its own brand in your goddamn community which for some reason you put the Toyota Supra under, which doesn't make sense to me, but who cares? Sorry, I'm a little heated over that, since the RX-7 and Supra and S2000 are all their own things. They're rivals, per se. The last thing that I really want to touch on, because outside of what I've mentioned by now, the cars are made beautifully. Outside of the favoritism to the Calico and the fact that, you know, the street races don't really work that well in comparison to things like stunt races due to how the game handles cars to begin with, which is not something they can fix. There's only really one last thing that I want to mention. And it's the fact that they put a Vapid Dominator GTT in the tuner class. That is just a muscle car. That is just a 1970 Ford Mustang. That is all that is. Why are you putting a 1970 Ford Mustang under the tuner badge? Like, out of all the cars you put under the tuner badge, the only two that do not belong are the Piss for Comet and the Vapid Dominator, both of which are not tuner cars. One of them is a supercar, one of them is a muscle car. I am very confused by this decision, Rockstar. Respond to me when you can, shall we? Now, in terms of the actual existence of this update, I think it's wonderful. I think it's one of the best things to happen in GTA Online in probably 3 or 4 years. I mean, since the Diamond Casino heist dropped, which I'm pretty sure was a year or two ago. I mean, the Cayo Perico heist is wonderful, don't get me wrong, but this is something the community has been desiring and wanting for a long, long time. And now that we finally have it, even with its problems, it's still wonderful. And I think the stuff they added aside from that, things like the auto shop, being able to do jobs through that, things like the prize car on the slam truck, that's wonderful. Being able to buy your own slam truck, like, all of these are just the most beautiful things that they could have added. It's spectacular. You know? So, Rockstar, I have to hand it to you. Despite the problems, you guys made a wonderful update. This has been an opinionated video on the LS Car Meets update. I think that it's a good thing and that it's brought the player count to be even higher than ever. And I think the only problem is the fact that they put the RX-7 under the Nissan badge, which I want fixed. Rockstar, I want you to change that. The RX-7 does not belong under the Nissan badge. Fuck you. So, yeah. I'll get to streaming again sometime. Don't worry. Go follow my Twitch at twitch.tv/casualvoltage, same name as the channel. Go follow my Twitter at casualvoltage, same as the channel. Go join my Discord. The link is going to be in the description and on the screen. Community server filled with people. Just find people to have fun with, find people to play games with. You'll get notifications of my stream through there. And updates on when I post videos, if ever. So, hope to see you there. Bye.